Hello, my name is Paul Jenkins, Managing Director of UK Packaging Innovation Consultancy, ThePackHub. I'm delighted to be joined today by Vincent Mooij, who is a very experienced sustainability and recycling expert from SUEZ.circpack. Hello, Vincent. How are you today?
Hi, good morning, Paul. Great to be here.
I'm delighted that you could join us today. So let me know a little bit more about you and what you do.
Well, I've studied marketing. I'm from the Netherlands and always been interested in innovation. Started in telecom industry, had my own firm for a while, and then I moved into the recycling business. Sustainability was for me a key driver to join the recycling industry, and also there I've been working in innovation. And one of the innovations we did was come up with SUEZ.circpack, which is basically a consultancy service explaining everything there is on recycling.
Okay, so let's build on that. Tell me a little bit more about what SUEZ.circpack does and what you do.
Yeah, we basically support brand owners, retailers, and packaging companies if they're looking for more information on recycling of household packaging. We do this by providing masterclasses, so trainings on recyclability. We do dedicated tests, sorting or advice on the packaging. We do certification of recyclability of packaging. We have our country reports where we have a lot of knowledge about the different situations of household packaging collection, sorting, and reprocessing, but also about extended producer responsibility in 68 countries at the moment.
Wow.
And yeah, we've gathered a lot of big data. And we're now moving, so that was a lot of data based on the AON codes of individual products. We know exactly how they are sorted and to which kind of reprocessor they will go. We're now looking more into image recognition to grow on this.
Excellent. So 68 markets, presumably your customers are all around the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. So a lot of especially the larger brand owners, they're global thinkers and actors. So we really have to understand all the national situations, because something that could be true for the Netherlands or Germany could be completely false for France or Argentina.
Okay, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about recycling. This is a big issue and a big topic. What do you think some of the biggest challenges are for the recycling, the effective recycling of packaging?
There are a couple of issues, I think, or challenges, as you say it. One of the largest challenge that we have as a society is to ensure that materials are actually being collected. Everything starts with collection. So we all see the footage on stuff ending up in the oceans or rivers and just being littered. So that's terrible, and that we see that most of the time happening in those countries where there is no recycling infrastructure available. So collection is still key to set up, and it's costly. So if you're a developing country, this might not be the first thing you are concerned about, and that's some part where I actually think that the brand owners could play a bigger role by setting this up themselves. And not as an individual company, but really together with others, and to really have a voluntary extended producer responsibility system.
Okay, so I mean, you obviously mentioned about sort of plastic in oceans and things like that. I mean, did you sort of see an increase in your services, or demand for your services, sort of following the sort of the Blue Planet to kind of 3.5 years ago? Was there sort of a sea change of demand, if you like, from there, or has it always been?
Well, we've seen that a lot of the big brands, but also plenty of smaller brands, are actually really eager to make a change into something that is recyclable or reusable, or of course the inevitable compostable. So we see all these efforts, and some of them are really making great progress. Some of them are waiting for the progress to be made until they do the next investment in a new production line, which is understandable. But it doesn't necessarily reflect the issue that we see in social media. in those areas where there is no infrastructure. So they're basically adapting a lot to fit in an existing infrastructure. But if the infrastructure is lacking, there's not really a solution. So I think that's still the gap that the brand owners and packaging companies could do more on.
Okay, I guess many of them are working to this 2025 deadline.
Yeah.
Plastic bags.
So all the pledges with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, plastic pacts, etc., which is great, which is absolutely leading into the right direction. But don't forget about those areas where no collection is in place.
That's a massive challenge and not something that can be solved overnight.
Correct. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about some of the countries or markets that are kind of leading the way in terms of recycling processes, etc.
Well, overall, you can see that some of the Western European countries, Germany, I think Germany, Netherlands, and some of the Nordics are actually leading the way in waste treatment in general. And you also see that the EPR systems in Germany and France are really stimulating recyclability. And you also see this in with eco-modulation. Yeah, so changing the fees you have to pay based on whether you're actually recyclable or not, whether you have certain information for the consumer about recyclability on your packaging, or how to dispose of the packaging. And I think that's something that will become the new standard. It's not harmonized at the moment. Sure. Unfortunately, I think that's one of the missing elements so far. So all these countries, even the leading countries, they want to lead by themselves instead of working together on a smart vision where we all could go to, which would be more effective for both consumers and for the brand owners. But in general, I think that these are countries that are really working on it, and this eco-modulation, it will come in place in more and more countries. So getting a bonus when you're recyclable, or when you have a certain amount of recycled content integrated in your packaging, and getting a malus, having to pay a malus if you're not recyclable or you're the wrong material. Well, these are the things that will start popping up more and more, I think.
Okay. We track a lot of mechanical recycling initiatives and also some chemical recycling initiatives.
Yeah.
What's your sort of view on the two sort of simultaneously working together? I mean, do you anticipate seeing more sort of chemical recycling examples coming to market or coming to fruition?
I'm sure there will. I mean, they will be working in parallel. So it's not either mechanical or chemical, it will be both. And they will have their specific input streams, I'm sure. What we see based on all the knowledge that we have so far is that for chemical recycling, the price of the process is still much more costly than for mechanical recycling.
Sure.
Meaning that those products which can still be reprocessed by mechanical recycling will remain in that area. Typically, all the rigid, so the bottles, containers of the standard formats like PET, PP, and PE, they will maintain in mechanical recycling as much as possible, because that's the shortest route, the cheapest route, and you can still create a good quality from that. Now, for everything else, then, and we're mainly talking about so the PET bottles, but you also have the PET trays. PET trays have a different story. They will probably go into chemical recycling, depolymerization. And we have the polyolefin-based flexibles, which might also go more and more into chemical recycling. Okay. Again, there we still need things to be covered. So EFSA still needs to approve the food safety of these recycled materials. And of course, the pricing of these technologies is still very important. But overall, we see that, especially now with the amount of materials being collected in Europe, we see that there are new outlets are needed for certain materials where this higher quality recycling is well, more challenging. Yeah, so indeed, flexibles, yes, they can be recycled, but typically a lot of ink, a lot of metallization, a lot of different materials on there, and a lot of contamination with food residue. Yeah, so hard to clean, quite costly, and not ideal for creating new, nice, clean material. If you put this kind of material into a chemical recycling process, it could very well be going back into food grade quality and virgin quality again. Yeah, so these are the things that will probably pick up in the coming years.
Not a straightforward process.
It's not straightforward. No. And of course, the main thing being the business case.
Yeah.
I mean, the business case, if there were intrinsic economical value in these wasted plastics, there would be no problem at all.
Mm.
It would be recycled, but apparently there's not. And we know that there's not. So the collection and sorting and reprocessing actually takes more money than it brings. So somebody needs to cover this gap, and we typically see this covered by extended producer responsibility systems. So depending on their choices, this can either live or be dead.
Yeah.
So it's basically in their hands to a certain extent.
Absolutely. Okay. So you mentioned about your country overviews, 68 markets. I mean, how often are they updated on a regular basis?
We're updating them regularly. So each year we have a big update because typically all those EPR fees and some legislation tends to change on the 1st of January of each year. So by the end of the first quarter, we always have the complete update of that year available. But of course, the intermediate big changes we also communicate to our customers just to make sure that they're aware about this.
Absolutely. And you also mentioned your masterclasses. Tell me a little bit more about that. How do people get involved in that?
So these masterclasses, we started off having these on-site visits and then a workshop to go with that. Entire day. Very interesting, but also a lot of information for people to grasp in this one day. And then COVID came, so we could not do the on-site visits anymore. We said, okay, we got to come up with something else to still spread the word about recycling. And that's how the master classes got started. And now we've basically set up different sessions. So we have 4 group sessions taking maximum of 90 minutes. No, we have one day where it's actually almost 2 hours, but still very, very comprehensible. And then we cover all the steps of recycling. So we cover part of the legislation, but also how the sorting process works, what's happening with collection, the issues in reprocessing, how they work, which technologies are in place. You see some of the standard design issues that we are faced with. We have a dedicated session on extended producer responsibility, and that's hosted by an external company. And then on top of that, you have a one-on-one session where you can ask dedicated questions about your packaging. So you just get 1 hour for your company alone and ask all the questions that you want.
Okay.
Tends to work well. Yeah, we get some good feedback on that.
And that's applicable for brands, retailers, suppliers, anyone that's interested in
Yeah, anyone. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Excellent. Sounds very interesting. Okay, so finally then, Vincent, so how can people contact you?
Well, they can basically send us an email And it will be on the screen here or not?
Okay,
Yeah.
it
So it should be, you can send an email to SUEZ.com, or you can have a look at our website and contact us through that.
Vincent Mooij, thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed our chat today, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Have a nice day.